Hi, this is Doron Kornbluth from Mosaica Press, and I am delighted to welcome you to our short interview with Rabbi Klein. Rabbi Klein is an amazing individual, a genius of a talmid chacham who also has a great way of expression. He's written 2 books with Mosaica. The first one, which has been reprinted 4 times or something, 3 times. How many times, Rabbi Klein? Do you remember?
Not quite, twice. We're working on the third one.
Working on the third. That's Lashon HaKodesh. The subtitle being History, Holiness, and Hebrew. Right? And it's an amazing book. It's also beautiful. I don't know if you can see it like that. And the second, which came out more recently, God versus God, which is basically a Judaism in the Age of Idolatry, sort of a history of the Torah's view of avodah zarah, of idol worship, which is fascinating as you go through. And it's got a whole encyclopedia in the back. So I guess what people, like, these are 2 very unique subjects, very different than each other. Not interesting that nobody had written really about either of them in this way before. Rabbi Klein, what sort of gets you into these subjects? Like, how did you think of these 2 subjects?
Well, the book on Lashon HaKodesh, really, I came into it when I was studying in yeshiva. We learned Mesachos Nedarim, and one of the commentators over there, Mesachos Nedarim, says that the Hebrew language is different from all other languages in that all other languages are sort of come from a consensus of people that decided that certain words should have certain meanings, but the Hebrew language is different from all other languages, which would imply that Hebrew has, let's say, inherent meanings in each of the words. So I wanted to sort of explore that and see how does that play out, the differences between the Hebrew language and other languages. So that brought me into doing all kinds of research and looking into Lashon HaKodesh and trying to understand it sort of from a linguistic perspective and from a traditional perspective, from a historical perspective. And then I ended up coming up with basically the book on the history of Lashon HaKodesh.
Before you switch over to the idol worship,
yeah.
Any curiosity, the most famous name that I've heard over the years in linguistics is a fellow named Noam Chomsky, who is a Jew by birth, but who is very, very anti-Israel. Some even say anti-Semitic, self-hating. And yet is he still considered a big name in linguistics? And does he talk about Lashon HaKodesh at all?
So I'm not really so familiar with Noam Chomsky, and there's also his father, William Chomsky, was an even more important linguist. From what I understand, there's different ways to look at linguistics. One approach to linguistics focuses more on classical languages in the classical sense and words that we speak about. And then there's linguistics more as a philosophical, as a sort of philosophical pursuit. Trying to figure out different things that are really common to all languages. From what I understand, Noam Chomsky's expertise is more in the latter field, linguistics as a sort of philosophical investigation, as opposed to more understanding languages from a historical or
Very good.
linguistic sort of perspective,
like you do.
That's I guess.
Very good. Okay, and how did you get into the idol worship subject? It's fascinating encyclopedic work.
So the zarah work is when you learn Tanach. So there's a large part of Tanach actually has to do with avodah zarah. If you want to summarize what is Tanakh coming to say, what's the chiddush of Tanakh? So the whole Bible is trying to say, don't do avodah zarah, and we oppose avodah zarah. That's in a nutshell, what is Judaism? It's against avodah zarah. And then that's on the one hand. On the other hand, when a person is learning the narratives and the stories in Tanakh, they tend to just gloss over the parts that have to do with avodah zarah. Something happened over here, not clear exactly what it was, what they were doing, what they were thinking, but something bad happened, and they got punished, and let's just go on. But then if you learn Tanakh like that, you're just really missing the whole point, because it's trying to, each of these stories is coming to say something specific. It's coming to rally against a specific type of idea or a specific way of acting. And then if you just gloss over it and you just take a very superficial level, you're not going to know what's happening at all. So my book really goes through all the stories and puts it in perspective. By the golden calf, the Jewish people did avodah zarah by the golden calf. What were they thinking? What was the golden calf? Why did they make a calf? Why didn't they make a donkey? All these different things to understand a better meaning of what was going on.
Amazing. One last question, because I know we have a short time. Maybe with your permission, we can talk again at some point in the next couple months. But have you had any interesting reactions to either book? Because each of your books delves into some controversy, some interesting, unique perspectives, Torah versus the secular world, Hebrew, modern Hebrew versus Lashon HaKodesh. Any interesting reactions to either of your projects?
I mean, I've gotten, over the years, I've gotten a lot of different questions from a lot of different people all over the world relating to the book that I've written. In terms of avodah zarah, I got an email not a few months ago, I think it was, from a lady who was an archaeologist who became religious, and she had in her possession actual idols from the biblical period.
Wow.
And she wasn't sure what to do with it. And for some reason, she turned to me, like, what am I supposed to do with it? So I consulted with a bunch of poskim, and they themselves, some poskim were saying that there is halachic precedent for her not have to destroy it, and some were saying no, you have to destroy it. There's a lot of different interesting things like that I found myself in the middle of. In terms of like my book on Lashon HaKodesh, so I've had like lots of different personal stories that people have told me. There was this one guy in Kiryat Sefer that his mother was on her deathbed and she was reading my book for some reason, and she told him that he should read it, and he never heard of the book and he wasn't able to see it. And then one day he walks into shul and he saw that it was on the table in his shul, and he picked up the book oh, this is the book that my mother was talking about. A lot of these different interesting stories like that. I don't know.
So I know, Rabbi Klein, I know that we here at Mosaic are working on the new edition of Lashon HaKodesh. What is the next project? What's the next subject that you're researching and that you're going to share with the world?
So hopefully the plan really is to do another volume about avodah zarah. This volume is really about more the historical aspects, like following the stories in Tanach and seeing what was happening in the stories and what the Nevi'im were trying to rally against. The next volume would be more of a philosophical or hashkafic investigation into what does the Torah hold versus what do polytheists or pagans, what did they believe, and trying to bring out different ideas from that perspective.
Sounds fascinating. Very much look forward to it. Thank you for sharing your time. It's been great to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be able to talk again at some point.
That's Hashem.
Okay, have a wonderful day.
Go.